Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? Well, we've been building up to this for about a year. We have finally gotten to the Inferno crossover featuring Madeline Pryor against Scott Summers, X Factor, and the X-Men for custody rights of her baby and the damnation of the Earth by Nastier and Sim. So we're taking a look today at X Factor number 36. So just before we get into it, if you enjoy the channel, if you feel like you might want to help out a little bit, go subscribe on my Patreon. Links are in the description. Gives you early access to everything I do. Helps with the channel, helps to buy new comics. So the whole deal with this is that Madeline Pryor has been screwed over by the editors of X-Men and X Factor. They took her husband away and put him on a super team with his dead ex-girlfriend. They took away her son, Baby Cable, and they made the world think that the X-Men are dead, thus banishing Madeline and the X-Men to the worst kind of hell imaginable, Australia. So now Madeline has somehow awakened some kind of powers within herself. I suppose it was with the kind of deal she made with Sim back in like Uncanny, I don't even know, 234, something like that. And we've been getting the odd vague hint over the last like half dozen issues that something sinister is going on with Madeline Pryor. And at the end of the last issue of Uncanny X-Men, that was number 239, we saw that she did have a full-on alliance going with Nastier of Hell. And like I said, it seems like she has some kind of powers we haven't seen her really use yet, but I think we're going to pretty soon. So that's kind of how we kick things off here. Now, in X Factor number 36 here, we're going to get dropped in the middle of something going on. I got to say, I do not like how this crossover was started. This is one of those ones, this might even be like one of the first ones, where it was like Marvel expected you to read every single comic they put out for these next few months in order to keep up with the Inferno storyline. Because every comic featured this big hell crossover for a few months. And some of those comics had crucial plot developments. Like, the beginning of the Inferno crossover is in The Exterminators, issue 1 to 3 of 4. What is The Exterminators? I don't know. Seems to be something featuring the New Mutants, written by Louise Simonson and drawn by John Bogdanov. So decent creators, at least. But that seems to be where the Legions of Hell start invading Earth. So if you're not reading The Exterminators, because, like, why the fuck would you? That comic didn't exist a couple of months ago. But if you don't, you get dropped in kind of the middle of this storyline. So I'm hoping that things kind of get straightened out over the next couple of issues between X Factor and X-Men. Part of the problem is that I also didn't read any X Factors leading up to this, so I believe that also helps transition you in a little bit. We'll see how it goes. So we can start off with this issue here. This, of course, is going to be written by Louise Simonson, drawn by Walt. I have a tendency to forget sometimes that Walt drew X Factor, and for a while, too. And, like, came up with some defining shit, like Archangel, and, like, turning the Beast back to, well, the Beast. And I'm pretty sure that run goes longer than his Fantastic Four run, which gets a bit more play. Anyway, the cover here, that's a fine cover. A whole lot of interaction going on with, like, the corner box here going right across the title. All these demons, I mean, when Walt draws them, they can't help looking a little Asgardy, you know? But yeah, we got all of X Factor, except for Archangel, versus the demons, which is appropriate because that's all that's in this issue, is just these four guys fighting off demons, and Archangel isn't really featured. All right, so we start with the Beast and Iceman saving a little boy from getting eaten by a hot dog stand. So the whole Inferno thing, part of it seems to be that hell energy is kind of changing the world to be more like hell. So a lot of stuff just gets like anthropomorphized, like this hot dog stand, and turned into its own kind of demon. And we got what I'm pretty sure is Walt Simonson's version of Calvin and Hobbes down here. This would have been around the time they first started getting really big. Beast has just reverted from his more human-looking form to the blue furry form. I guess for the last time. I don't know if he's ever reverted since. And maybe most disturbing of all, we find that Iceman isn't wearing any boots, because he's got little icy toes. Is he naked? Who knows? This is a great shot to open with, though. Whole lot of movement going on. I mean, like, that's kind of Walt's stock and trade, but it's excellent looking stuff to start. One thing about Walt I really like is that he never really seems to slack off. If he can't get an issue done in time, it seems like he'll just, get somebody else to draw for a little while he just writes. And then, he'll work on the pages, but he'll put in the right amount of time on the pages. So they rescue Calvin, and I guess they kind of dismantle the hot dog stand. Hydrant comes to life, which Iceman, of course, freezes up immediately. I think this is around the time when Iceman's power is out of control, and he's got to wear like an inhibitor belt of some kind. And the only reason I know that is because of the Marvel Series 1 trading cards, which I read over and over. And yet you can still see his goddamn toes. Anyway, Trish is like grateful. She's currently dating the Beast, I believe, but she's not. This is the first time she's seeing him in his blue furred form. And she doesn't know exactly what to make of him. First, she calls him Beast instead of Hank, which is, it's a faux pas. You don't do that shit. And I mean, she's trying to be girlfriendy, but he's so different from how he used to be, apparently, that she's having difficulty kind of warming up to him. And that kind of pisses Beast off, and he's got to go and deal with other shit going on, like a monster subway train that swallows Trish and her cameraman whole, and then Iceman and Beast have to go after it. I mean, it's some wild-looking stuff, and it lets Walt just kind of go nuts. Like, monster subway train. Yes, by all means, draw that. Let's see how that turns out. Yep, that's pretty good. And swallowing Trish and her cameraman doesn't kill them. It just kind of puts them in the cars. Because the cars are still going by the looks of it. So from there, we cut to Nastir, who's hanging out in a cemetery. I think this is the cemetery that he first got summoned in, or was able to make his way into our world through. And he's just kind of musing to himself about the state of the Inferno crossover, essentially. And how he's got his own goals that he's trying to reach. And, he's trying to make it look like he's just aiding Madeline, which, of course, is not the case. Although he does point out that her power is far outstripping what he thought she would be capable of. Although he's sure this will still work in his favor somehow. He's more kind of regretful that he wasn't able to get the same kind of control over Jean Grey. In fact, most of X Factor, he's not actually going to be able to touch. Cyclops too, which is a drag because, both of those two are also linked to Nathan Christopher. So he'd like to be able to entrap the whole family. However, there is a whole bunch of darkness to Archangel, which Nastir thinks he might be able to use in his favor. And Archangel has just lost Candy. I'm not sure who Candy is. I wasn't reading the early issues of X Factor. But apparently she got killed by Cameron Hodge of Genosha. So Archangel, I think, decapitated Cameron Hodge, which is going to come back, I think, in the Extinction Agenda. So Nastir reaches out to Archangel because he's going to try and see if he can win him to his side. And Archangel's not having any of it because, first of all, he's in severe amount of grief over Candy. And particularly when he finds out that Nastir was behind Cameron Hodge stealing Candy and leading to her death. So now Archangel swears revenge on Nastir and I guess all of the demons. So that gets him personally involved. I don't know if this is like a Palpatine thing where Nastir is just trying to work Archangel up so much that he just loses control and becomes evil inherently. Or if it really was just like, hey, buddy, I was kind of behind getting your girlfriend killed. How about you come work for me? So from there, we cut to Jean Grey and Scott, who are kind of zooming in on New York. I'm not sure exactly where they're coming from. Jean Grey's in a place right now where she has some limited telepathic ability. It seems like for a long while there, she didn't have any, where she was just kind of like back to being a regular person. And this has recently been awakened, not all the way, just a little bit. It won't be until, I believe it's X Factor number 68, which is about 2.5 years off. I did review that one already. But that's when Jean, gets like her powers back fully. So Jean is all worked up because she's kind of back to being new to being a telepath, where she doesn't have any of the control that she used to. And she has some kind of link to Nathan Christopher, where his emotions and his thought process is getting all mixed up with hers, and she's having difficulty differentiating one from the other, which is probably a bad thing with an infant, I would think. And I guess this is how you get Jean invested in Nathan Christopher, is to have them have this psi link, because otherwise she doesn't really have anything to do with him at all, other than, being Scott's girlfriend again, probably. I don't know what exactly the state of their relationship is at this point. It feels a little creepy though. Well, not like creepy, just like sordid. Where like Jean is thinking to herself, ugh, why did you marry this fucking horrible woman, Scott? Who's all vengeful and like maternal. Anyway, from there we're cutting back to the monster subway train, which is cutting through a station. So Beast and Iceman use the brief open area to sneak into the train. And they're trying to be all like upbeat and happy to try to like keep the New Yorkers from panicking. Because panic New Yorkers are just the fucking worst, right? And Iceman takes this opportunity to talk to Trish about her relationship with Hank. Which seems like maybe bad timing, but like I think when they're back in the tunnel, they can't really do anything to escape at the moment. So it's just like, okay, let's shoot the shit about you and the big blue furry guy. Back to Scott and Jean in the plane, where Jean is still linked to Nathan Christopher, and then all of a sudden she loses contact with him, which is even scarier, I imagine. And then a demonic aircraft catches up with them and starts clawing at the plane. And like all the panels are functional, I would say. Like they look good. All the drawings are good, but you know, they're all pretty small. They're not Walt trying to wow us with any kind of visuals like he would with, say, Thor or Fantastic Four. This feels like more of a Louise does whatever she wants with the story, and then he just draws it out. So they are able to get control of the plane again. They flip it so that Scott, I think, can look out through the cockpit and blast it with his optic blast, destroying one of the engines, so that it can still get to the ground okay with the one engine. And then after they recover themselves, they realize they're flying right before what they figure is probably the Empire State Building, only it's grown like way higher than any building on Earth should become. And it's become like a hell version of the Empire State Building. Back to Beast and Iceman, who are going over the bridge, I guess the Manhattan Bridge. And again, they're going to use this opportunity to try and stop the train now that they're out in the open, and then hopefully effect an escape. So Iceman does it by freezing up the wheels on the tracks. Some good looking stuff here. Like, pretty quickly done, but like, yeah, really nice undercarriage of the subway car here. So yeah, they are able to take it down. It does smash into some of the supports here, holding up the bridge. They're able to smash out of the car, and they're helping all the New Yorkers to escape. And this is all kind of getting under Trish's skin. Because it's not the fact that he's blue, apparently, and furry. Apparently she's okay with that. It's more the fact that he won't shut the fuck up. Which is also a Hank thing, but I suppose wasn't before this. But she's not getting that Hank is doing this to try and keep the situation light so that it doesn't turn into, like a full-on rout, like a panic. So they don't really have much of a choice but to jump from the bridge here. So what they're going to do is Iceman is going to form an ice slide, and then all of the passengers can slide down it onto, a Circle Line tour boat that's waiting below. And this is some fun stuff. Like, again, it always looks kind of Asgardy when Walt draws this stuff. I think what's going on here is that the train is going to lunge for the passengers who are trying to escape, and Beast kind of holds it back with a section of the railing, which holds for a second, but isn't going to go forever. And Trish can see it starting to buckle already, so decides she's going to have to come up with something, or else Beast is going to get himself killed, which she gets kind of pissed about. This seems like the kind of thing that's actually bring her closer to him again, because this is something that has carried over, which is sort of a macho thing, or something that she perceives as a macho thing anyway. But she's got an idea with the third rail, which I'm not entirely sure what it is, but she grabs one of the support cables from the bridge here and swings it over, which I guess it's gonna hit the third rail somewhere in here. I'm not sure where the third rail is, but it seems like that kills the subway car, and in the meantime, Beast is barely able to hop up and rescue Trish and leap away. So a bit of a confusing sequence. Like, the description works better than I think the depiction did in this case. All right, so back to Scott and Jean, who are flying back over New York when a big old glowing pentagram appears in the sky. Lightning comes out of it and hits, I suppose, like the Blackbird or something like that, which is going to take it down. I like this stuff here with it flying around, trying to get away from, trying to evade the big pentagram in the sky. It's got that typical Walt Simonson, the very acute swoops. Always good. And they're going to have to eject out of the ship. Apparently a helicopter was following them and goes after it to eat it. I'm not sure where the helicopter came from. See, it's starting to get a little bit confused. But from the giant pentagram in the sky, it opens up like a portal, and all sorts of demons come through. Meanwhile, back at the East River, Beast and Trish land on the cruise ship. So that particular little adventure thing is over. And they look back at New York and see the big portal opening up over downtown. And they can see Cyclops' beam attacking it, which is kind of great. And they're like, okay, we're going to have to go do stuff. I guess we got to sort this out later. And Trish it seems like she's amenable. Like, this has convinced her that, okay, this is still the same guy. I just have to get used to the new version. So that's nice. So downtown, it's Cyclops and Jean Grey versus a bunch of demons, which basically just means it's Cyclops versus a bunch of demons. Because Jean Grey has just very limited telepathic ability at this time. And of course, she doesn't have any real fight training. Not in 1989, she doesn't. So Cyclops is doing what he can to fend them off and like barely succeeding. But then they get the cavalry rushing to their aid with Iceman and the Beast. So that's some good stuff. They start making short work. We get a nice big kind of like panel here with all of them attacking the demons against just like an endless horde of demons, really. Like they say, it's like hundreds of them. But they're holding them off, and then Archangel comes in and starts hacking them to pieces, and that's kind of what pushes the momentum into their favor. So 5 members of X Factor is enough to take out just hundreds of nameless demons. And so they're able to wipe them all out or drive them off. And Jean Grey is able to reestablish connection with Nathan Christopher. And the 5 of them, I believe, are going to go into the portal to try and fish him out. But we're still a bunch of issues away from that ever happening. So I imagine there's going to be a few setbacks. But yeah, that is where we're going to end things for X Factor number 36 and the beginning of Inferno. So, I mean, it's kind of a slight issue, really. There's not a whole lot that goes on. In terms of plot development, it's really just to get all of X Factor together, which, I mean, I suppose you need. It just feels like there could have been more happen in that. I mean, we got a lot of, like, pretty fun set piece stuff, so that's something. Not the most mind-blowing visuals, which is a bit of a shame, because Walt does have a tendency to do that every once in a while, where he'll just go nuts on a splash. We got the first page, which was pretty great, and then after that, yeah, not a whole lot. Again, just kind of functional stuff, which is fine. I mean, I'd rather have Walt doing functional stuff than, like, just about anybody, really. It's just that, you know what he's capable of, and it feels like it's a bit more than this. Although I'm not sure just how hard he goes on X Factor. It doesn't feel like it's one of his babies. I'm sure he liked being able to work with Louise, but, I mean, just like standard superhero stuff, it feels like it's not really his deal, you know? Anyway, next time we're back to Uncanny X-Men. So hopefully that'll have a chance to settle down and get a couple of plot twists in. I think probably with Claremont at the helm. And we're back to Silvestri drawing some of his best stuff. I mean, this crossover it's kind of an embarrassment of riches. Like, between the writers working on it, which is mostly Louise Simonson and Chris Claremont, which are, 2 of the better writers going in comics in the late 80s. And then for the art, you've got Walt Simonson on X Factor, you've got Mark Silvestri on Uncanny. Brett Blevins on New Mutants isn't a slouch. And then, you got all of the Marvel Universe, technically. But, like, there's nobody in this series who doesn't hold up their end of the couch. So that's pretty great, and we can look forward to more of that. But for this one anyway, that's going to do it. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications so you know when the next one's coming out. Go over and subscribe to my Patreon. Gives you early access to everything I do, from the Blood Force stuff to the YouTube videos before they get uploaded to YouTube, as well as some Patreon-exclusive content. You can also follow me on Instagram and DM me there for commissions, and you can join the Blood Force Discord server. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.